As part of your commercial inspection, specifically the exterior, I'd like to introduce two words to our vocabulary. One is the macro and the other is the micro. And these are approaches that have become very successful in inspecting any building and primarily the exterior of any building. When I look at the macro approach to a building, I'm looking at the building from a very wide, faraway gaze. 1, 2, 3, 400 feet away from the building. When I'm looking at micro, I'm looking right up close. I'm looking at the building really in its systems and components within the systems right where they're lying. The whole goal of looking at the building in a macro and micro is almost prioritizing what is the concern, and is that concern relating to structure. What I mean by that specifically are the 4 key tenets to structural inspections. And those are plumb, level, square, and straight. Plumb, by definition, is a state of verticality. Level is a state of horizontal. Straight is something bending around a corner or not being upright. And square are where 2 angles come together. And so what's interesting when you look at a building from that macro approach and identifying plumb, level, square, and straight, as it is with this building over my shoulder, I can walk up to this building from a distance. Here, we're about 250 feet away from the building, and I can see the horizontal line of the parapet, the levelness of that parapet wall. If that parapet wall was bending, moving, contorting, going up or going down, that is giving me some inclination that something else is going on that I will investigate as I get micro or closer to the building. When I think of plumb, I'm looking at the verticality of all of these corners. And what's great, from the view that I'm standing at here, I can see the verticality of at least 4 corners of this building. If looking at this building and the verticality, the plumbness of it, I see that it's listing or leaning one way or another, then that's giving me something to concern myself with later on when I'm doing the micro view. Lastly, I'm looking at straight and square. Now, usually when it comes to straight and square, that involves me stopping as I rotate corner to corner or wall to wall. And I sight down those walls and I sight down those corners. And that's what I'm looking at when I'm doing the micro approach to the outside of the building. Does that mean you might have to make 1 or 2 or 3 laps around the building? Absolutely. I typically try to make no less than 2 laps around every building. 1 from a distance to achieve my macro approach. And then my second, at a minimum, is getting up close with the micro approach. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to walk up closer to this building and let's take a look down the walls and let's look for straight and let's look for square. And then we'll go look at, lastly, the micro look at the building itself. As I walk around any building, I am going to try to do my best and still in that macro approach, but it's kind of a hybrid between macro and micro of stopping. I physically stop at every corner of every building, and I will look down that wall. I am looking down this wall specifically at its straightness. If I look at this wall and there's a bow outwards, or if I look at this wall and there's an enclave or it's bending inwards, that's telling me that there's a concern and that's something I need to look at a little closer. And so I'll look down the wall going this way. I'll look down the wall going this way. I'm looking up and I'm looking down. Those are all keys in that macro view of the building. Because this building could be not just 30 or 50 foot deep, I could be hundreds of feet deep. But our eye will see if that building's moving at any point. So plumb, level, square, and straight are all going to be concepts we'll identify in the larger sense during the macro approach. Then once I've done that, then I can get up close to the building and consider looking at the building in more of a micro gaze, a micro approach to the inspection. And when I do that, that's really when we're looking for issues, deficiencies, or concerns that you're going to be bringing to attention to your clients. And so as I'm looking at the micro approach to this building, I'm going to be looking at just what's the seams look like in this particular concrete building. But when I come down here and I start to develop really true issues like the rusting, the cracking, those things, because I've looked at this through the macro view. I know my walls are straight. I know my parapet is level. I know my corners are square and plumb. So then the issues that we have now might not necessarily be huge in the world of structure. They're still important to note for your clients. And so that macro and micro help define and clarify exactly what you're identifying on your inspections. Consider that and that approach when you're doing your commercial property inspections on the exterior of your buildings.